Welcome, folks, to the recording for the final part of completing the arcade cabinet UV, which is our final 3D modeling project for the year. So, where we last left off, you should have produced all of your UV maps. Then, with all of those maps created, then curated them into some kind of UV layout that fits into our 0 to 1 space, so that way we can export this image out and send it into Photoshop. So if you did not do so already, you will want to make sure that before you start doing this, that you have created a project that this lives in. So I have my Maya Arcade project, so you would just hit new, give it your name and arcade, and hit accept. And then I would suggest doing save scene as to make sure it's going to save a copy of this scene that lives inside of that project folder in the scenes folder. And so if you do file save scene as, you can save a copy in there from wherever you might have it saved now. And then the final thing would be with your object selected in object mode in the UV editor. Once you have all of your shells fitted into the 0 to 1 space, you'll just go to image, UV snapshot. You'll want to make sure again when you browse, it'll be going to your current project typically. I did this demo twice, so it's looking my other one. But right, and so there's my one from before. Save over that. Cool. Image format, you should change to PNG. Size is fine. It should say tiles U1 V1. And then apply and close. Yours won't say overwrite, but mine will. And there you go. So now if I go find my project folder, so mine's called Maya Arcade. In my images folder, you can see I have this output of my UV snapshot. And so I can bring that directly into Photoshop. And so right now it's just my lines. So I can make a new layer and take my paint bucket and just fill it with black and put this on the bottom. That way I can make it easy to see my lines. And so now, again, you'll want to make sure you know sort of what is what. So when you packed this, you should have had some sort of idea of sort of how you're going to keep track of what is what. So now we can start creating the colors and adding images where we need to add texture. So starting off, I'm going to make a new layer, and this is going to be the layer that I'll name this bottom color. And so this is going to be for these faces up here, which, if I'm remembering correctly, should be the bottom of our arcade cabinet. And you can always check if you're uncertain. You can come back into Maya, go into UV shell mode, and then if you hover over these shells, it'll tell you where they're at so that you can keep track of, or you can remind yourself if you lost track rather. And so, okay, I know those are my bottom ones over here. And I have decided to do one themed on the Mage Seeker, the new League of Legends game. So I'm going to copy this. And I'm going to paste this in here. So it's going to be, paste it on the bottom color layer. Okay. Let me make a new layer then, and I'll paste it on that layer. But I'm going to open up my color picker, and I'm going to snag one of these purple colors over here. Oh, you know what? Maybe I'll snag the silver. I'll do the bottom as silver. Let me snag one of these like silvery gold colors. So I'm going to zoom in a little more, open up my color picker, and check out these silvery gold colors up here. Cool. Alright, I'll steal that color. On my bottom color layer, I'm just going to take a brush and I'm going to make it relatively hard. So I'm going to push it up to like 90%. And then let's make this a little bigger. A lot of bigger. A lot of bigger. Okay, cool. And so like I said, all of these are sort of the little pedestal that the rest of the arcade cabinet rests on. And so I'm just covering all of these shells with this color. And so now it'll be shaded that color. that brings me to the side of my arcade cabinet. It's the next biggest thing. So I'm working my way up my cabinet. So now I'm worried about, hey, what color should the side of these be? So this will be my side. Cool. Again, I'm going to open up this picture I copied, open up my color picker, and let's snag a nice deep blue purple in here. Let's see, what do I got here? That's good. I like that color. Boom. Go on my side layer, make my brush a little bigger, and then again, I'm just trying to cover up the edges of the UV shell. Make sure I try not to bleed onto other layers. Whoops. So you might need to just spam click and get in up close and personal. And then boom, I can just do like this for these parts. Boom. I just want to make sure I don't hit any of this stuff in the middle. Boom, like that, like that. Okay. Now, I don't just want the color on here. I want to put a picture on there. Also, I'm going to move this layer 1 here. This is my UV snapshot. I'm going to put this at the very top so I can at least see where my outlines are. And then that way I know, oh, so like here, I just got to fix this smidgen. Okay, there we go. Cool. So now with this color, or this image for the Mage Seeker, I'm going to go ahead and scale this down slightly and do like this. And so I'll just sort of line this up. I'm looking at the lines where the edge of the arcade cabinet are. I'm going to add a very simple basic mask with just add an empty mask, grab my brush, and as we know, black will hide this. So I just want to make sure that outside here, this Mage Seeker thing isn't bleeding onto these other shells. And similarly in the center, I don't want it bleeding into these shells. So boom. And then what I can do is I can lower the hardness on this, and then if I want to, I can sort of blend out painting black so that this edge here is not so hard on the Mage Seeker thing. And so I'm just trying to make this look nice on the top and the bottom. So I can do something like that. And then I'll go ahead and right click and duplicate this layer. And I'll bring this over here to put on the other side. And I don't think I need to adjust the mask. It looks like it's fine. So we'll call it, oh, that M is a little close. Okay. So here, I'll put that like that. And then I guess I'll just come back here with my brush and switch back to white and just sort of tweak up this mask a little bit, fix it down here. Okay, cool. So now I got my Mage Seeker thing, or like logo on both sides of my arcade cabinet. So that looks good. Let me make sure this one's, yeah, it's not hitting any of these shells. Okay. So far, so good. So these areas up here, these are also, if I go back to Maya, you can see these are like the back of my arcade cabinet, underside, top side. So these should get the same color as our side. So again, grab my side color. Oh, I need to set the hardness back up to a high number. And then paint this in. Boom. So all of this stuff ends up purple. Now I'm going to make a new layer. And I'm going to just straight up call this black, because I'm going to use this to paint black on areas that I want to make sure end up black. If you couldn't guess that. So I'm going to grab black. Boom. And then so this is the area at the top of the marquee and around the screen, which are both over here. And I am just going to paint those areas black. You're not really going to see a change there, even though it is painting black on this layer. And that will be because when I turn this off, you can see, I want to make sure there's still black behind there and all that. So when I turn this off, that'll stay black. Cool. You might be thinking like, oh, Mr. Meyer, you didn't need to do that. You could have just used the black from the background. And you are kind of right, but it's better to be cleanly and have black where you need black than count on the black of the background to be the black you need. Okay, so that brings me over to this one, which I believe should be the front of the arcade cabinet, I believe. Let's check. So this is again why you, so this is the, okay, this is the screen, this is the marquee, and then this is the front, and this is the top of the controls area. Okay, so we'll start with this one. I want to put a picture on the front for the Mage Seeker. So I'm gonna basically just grab, let's see, is there another, we'll do this. Cool. Boom, we'll take this picture of Silas, come back in here. So this is where the top of, or the front of my arcade cabinet is. So I'm gonna make a new layer, paste, bring this guy up here, and that looks pretty cool. We'll do like this, and then I'll just take a simple rectangular marquee, select around this image, simple mask, so that way it doesn't bleed out. So now on the front of my arcade cabinet, it'll have this picture. And then that brings us to, I believe I said this was the top of the control area for the controllers. So why don't I go ahead and throw, what do we got here? Oh, there we go. I'll use this. That looks cool. This picture of Garen versus Silas. Boom, and I'll scale this down. Get it to fit as closely as I can. Let's move these down. It's a shame I can't. Okay, we can do something like that. We'll do that. Okay, boom. Cool. So that'll be underneath where the the controllers are. Let me move that over slightly to make sure it fits perfectly. And then now we're looking at right here, which is where I'm going to be putting what is on the, what we would call the marquee, right? It's this area here and the screen. So for the marquee, I'm gonna just go back and grab the original image that I was using. We'll throw that up top as well. So I'll bring in a fresh copy of that, scale it down again using free transform. Boom. Let's get this scaled in as closely as we can. Okay. Boom. We'll do that. And again, I'll just use a simple marquee. Hit mask. Boom. We'll call that good. And now I'll look up a gameplay thing just so that I can, boom. So I'll put this on the screen, copy this image, come back in here, paste again, scale this down. It's not going to fit my screen perfectly, so let me make this a little bigger. Boom, boom, boom. And we'll do this. And then again, use a marquee, select. Boom. And there we go. So now I got, let's see, my coin op area. These are the sides of my case. So I think I'm going to use this, or the sides of the control area. So I'm going to grab, make a new layer, and this will be control area. And what I'm going to do, I'll take this, I'll take my black actually. And I'm going to grab one of these gold colors in here. Yay. Okay, cool. Brush, make it a little smaller. And then for my control surfaces, I'm just going to add this gold color over it. Boom. For my coin op area, I'm going to go back to my black layer. I'll switch this back to black. And I'll include this, the front face of my coin op area in the black, as well as these areas in here, making sure they don't get any of the purple. I'm going to make sure this is above this stuff. Okay, cool. And then the last things I need to do are my little insert coin things here. So let me look up insert coin. And so that's what they normally look like. All right, so I'm gonna grab this, copy image. Yeah, I'll use that. I'll use the one I have. Okay, boom, paste it. And so it's not gonna fit perfectly, but what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna select this part that I care about, and I'm gonna, come over here and make a mask. So boom, I just have that part. I'll scale it down. You can see it's this little black rectangle. Let me zoom in. I'm using my arrow keys with the move tool to just sort of move it around. And if I turn off this, okay, cool. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and make a new layer that I'm going to call red. And now I'm just going to make very simple, like a dark red. And I'm going to paint red right here. And so now I have it red around the little box that says insert coin, 25-cent insert coin to play. And I'm also going to add the red around this one. And then that allows me to take this. I will again duplicate the layer by right-clicking it. And then I'll just take this duplicate and bring it down here. And I guess that's good. Okay, cool. So boom, there we go. So now if I look at this, and I'm gonna wanna make sure before you start saving this stuff out, make sure you turn off your lines. So I'm gonna start by doing save as, and I wanna save in my source images, if at all possible, not your images. And I want a Photoshop document to start, and this is going to be MeyerArcade.psd. Save. Okay. So this is the file that we'll continue to come back to. I mean, I'm going to instantly start making my bump and spec maps, but this is the file that you'll continue to work out of as you continue to make your next steps in the bump maps and the spec maps. So I got my diffuse map done here. So just for sake of showing, I'm going to go ahead and do my file, save a copy. Boom. Again, it should go into your source images of the project that you made. Source images, PNG. And then because this is just our base texture, I don't need to add anything to the end. I can get rid of the copy if it bothers me. Hit save and OK. Now if I come back here, close my UV editor, go into object mode, we assign our good friend the Blinn. Go find that you can right click on these arrows if you didn't know to show up this little menu, or you can just keep holding this down until it shows the Blinn, or you can just go material attributes and that'll bring it up too. So I have this Blinn, boom, color, file, folder. It's looking in my current project's source images, which is why I see Meyer Arcade right here. Open, and then of course 6 to display your textures. And there you go. So there's my simple arcade cabinet. Simple white base on my pictures. Oh, this is flipped upside down. That's kind of funny. Okay, well, good to know. Let me just come back here and I think it's this one. Yeah, okay. So I'm just going to flip this around. Whoops. All right. Save a copy. PNG again. I'll save over Meyer Arcade. Replace. Okay. Come back into my, double click my material, and it updates. Okay. So, now that I have my diffuse done, as we know from our CAN project, it's just a simple matter of copying that diffuse map, or copy the layers that makes the diffuse map, and then produce a bump map, and then again, take our diffuse map, and then from that produce a spec map. So back in Photoshop, all of this stuff minus the black layer I have here at the bottom and the lines that I have here at the top, I'm going to select all of those by selecting one, shift clicking down to the bottom, and throw them in a group. And this will be my color group. And then I'm going to duplicate said group And this one is going to be for making my bump map. So then I can turn off my color pass and open up my bump map, which is still just a fresh copy of my color map. And as you'll remember, for bump maps are the ones that start at 50% gray, right? And then the closer you get to white, the more that they are raised. The closer you get to black, the more that the shape is depressed or pushed in. So we do that either by using, solid colors, or for most things you'll be able to go and run our high pass. So as a reminder, that's filter, other, high pass. Set it to something between 1 and 2. And so basically you should be able to just go down the line. So boom, I got this. This is my insert coin, filter, high pass, filter, high pass, filter, high pass, filter, high pass, filter, high pass. Oh, I don't want bump on. Yeah, it shouldn't be bumpy on the screen. Okay. So, in that case, I have my mask here. I don't need this image. I don't want it to be bumpy. So I'm just going to turn this. Oh, I don't want to turn it off because I can turn it off because I want to come back down here. I'm a goober. I forgot. You do want to copy this layer because you want to change the black layer to be 50% gray. So I'm just going to grab brightness equals 50, saturation equals 0, boom, boom, paint bucket, 50% gray. So that way I know everything's going to be base 50% gray for my bump map. So that means I can turn this off because I don't want it to be bumpy. This I do want to be bumpy. Filter, high pass, boom. This I don't want to be bumpy. Turn it off. This I do want to be bumpy. Filter, high pass. What does that leave us with? Boom. What is this? Oh, these are the images on the side. So yes, filter, high pass, filter, high pass, filter, high pass, filter, high pass. Boom. Bump map. Done and dusted. File. Save my Photoshop document first. File. Save a copy. PNG. This one is going to be my bump, so I'll do _B or -B, whichever you prefer. Save, save. And so now I'm coming back here. Again, you can go right-click it, Material Attributes. You should have your blend already made. Bump mapping, file. Remember that your texture file for bump is considered the bump value. So you'll click on the arrow for bump value and connect your bump map in there. And so there we are. Now, as you can see, my bump map is a little crazy. It's a little strong on some of these things. So the next thing would be to then go back into our bump mapping, and you can use the bump depth by clicking on this button, which backs you up for whatever. I would have thought it would be this one, but it's this one. So anyway, brings you back to this, and then you can lower the value of your bump map so that it's not as strong per se. So now let's see. Now that looks a little better on the front. On the side, it's just got some nice detail there. And then up here, it's got detail as well. And that brings us to our spec map. So what should be shiny on our arcade cabinet? So again, with our bump done, we can turn our bump off, duplicate again from the color channel, not the bump map, the color channel, duplicate that, spec, okay, we'll turn that on, and so we'll go again, but this time, as a reminder, specular maps start at black, meaning they would not be shiny. And the shinier they are, the closer they get to white. So as we go through this, so like our control area here, I made gold. First thing you'll do is desaturate it. So get the color out. And then you can use either, you can either add a levels adjustment layer and clip it onto it as we've been used to, right? Using a clipping mask and tweak with this, right? Or what might be useful is that you can go this is considered destructive editing, so you can only do this once. So then I could do levels from here, and that will allow me to like permanently change these levels. So this area where the control area is, I'll make reasonably shiny. So that brings me to my insert coin areas. So right now these are black. I'm going to get rid of these. And I'm going to make this part, because I want the whole thing area to be shiny. So I'll desaturate this red. And then I will again go to adjustments levels and make this much brighter. Cool. Okay. Black areas. So these black areas that I've denoted are primarily metal. So one thing to keep in mind with that is that metal is kind of shiny actually, even if it's black. So I am going to, again, I'll run desaturate. It's not going to do anything because it is already pure black, but I can go to levels and I can raise these output levels, and that will make it brighter. And I'll make this relatively shiny. Boom. That brings me to the screen here. The screen has a glass piece over it, for those of you who have seen an arcade cabinet. So it's not the image I'm worried about. It is that the whole size of it, that whole screen area, should be very shiny. So I am going to take pure white on this layer with my image. It already has the mask that I need, so I'll just take a big brush and make it all white. Boom. Now this area for the image up here maybe is a custom decal. So now I'll go ahead and do my desaturate. And now when I do my levels, instead of pushing it hard one way or another, I'm just going to sort of brighten this up and leave some variation in the values. And I think I will increase pure white so that there's much more pure white. And there we go. Same thing for my area where the controls would go. I will use desaturate, and then instead of entirely blowing it out with levels, I will increase the pure white a bit. I'll increase the balance of whites in this, and then just sort of decrease my output levels so it doesn't get as dark. And then, so that brings me to next image is this Silas image of him doing blasts. So then, similarly, I'm going to desaturate, and then similarly, I will give it a touch in the levels. So I'm going to lower my pure black outputs so that this whole thing gets much brighter. I'll bias this much more towards white. And there we go. Same thing here. So I'm going to desaturate these. And you're going to see why I do it this way in a second. So I'm just going to desaturate both of these images. For this one, I'll add my levels. And I'm going to clip it on. And then so I'll tweak with this. I'm going to do basically the same thing we did on the other one, which is increase pure white, lower my pure black outputs, so I get something like this. And the reason I did this is so that I can just straight up take this, duplicate my layer, and I can put it down here, and now then I can just clip this onto the other one, so I get the same effect. Boom, and that brings me to this image, adjustments, desaturate, image, adjustments, levels. Don't make it dark, make it bright. Relatively bright, and so there you go. Something like this. Bottom color, oh, well, I don't need to do much, but I will desaturate it. Boom, okay, so no layer got missed. Perfect. Again, Command save, save the full document PSD, then you can save a copy and save out your final spec map. PNG, delete, _S, again going into your project's source images, and save, and OK. And so finally, if I come back here, again, I can go to material attributes to make sure I get to the texture. Specular color is where you'd input your spec map. File, connect, connect, and there you go. Now you can see, as I go over the screen, you can see how it gets that sheen that you would expect from a plane of glass, right? And you can see how the lighting sort of affects some of these other parts of it. And so with that, I can save my scene, and I can save this and be content knowing that with my completed material with 3 textures, I have taken this this arcade cabinet from having no UVs to having a set of UVs to having a laid out set of UVs to having a material made for it with a color, bump, and spec map. And there you have it. So this would be a completed arcade cabinet.